treat your marriage like it's a job. Yeah, okay. Another Mids Watch, another Ryan, another Jack 10 post, and another post from a guy 8 years ago. This one was a guy who kind of realized that he liked taking risks and treating things as well in his marriage or in his job, but he was trying to take that same approach to his marriage. I'm going to skip. There's a lot of details that really don't matter. We're going to cut to straight the meat of it on his post, then the Jack response, and then my thoughts at the end of it here. Yeah, I'll skip those to the end. So he's doing a lot of introspection. Most of this stuff is him thinking it through, doing a self-introspection. He's like, what do I do? Am I successful? Am I always busting my ass? Do I bring value? Do I know my value? Am I compensated? Am I willing to walk away for a better offer? And he realizes with his job, absolutely, on all fronts. On his marriage, no. And he breaks down like, am I busting my ass? And he goes, yeah, I bust my ass at work and it works out well. I'm also busting my ass in my marriage for no reason and is doing nothing in the wife's dictating term. I bring indispensable value to both. He knows his value in the one, but in the marriage, he's having to learn. And a lot of this red pill thing is just learning what he actually brings to the marriage, because men and women are different. And the things that a guy brings to a marriage are the thing that women want. But the things that guys think are valuable in a marriage are the things that the guy would want. That's why we're always talking about loyalty and commitment. Girls don't give a shit about that. Not nearly the extent we do. What they give a shit about? Status. And we don't care about that. We'll fuck the barista. Compensation, he has a bit of a rant about that where he realizes, yeah, he's being taken for granted. And the big one is where he's willing to leave. So if his job stiffs him, he's out. If his wife stiffs him, he spends 5 years working on his married red pill male action plan. You get what I'm saying here? So his conclusion is, how could I possibly expect my marriage to be as successful as my career? I'm not doing any of the things required for success. I identify and correct the major discrepancies between my effort and awareness levels at work. And at home, it has made the satisfaction of my home approach the same as the experience I have at work. It's taken me 12 years to get there at work, so I don't expect this to work overnight in my marriage. Undefined problems are the hardest to solve, and the most defined are the easiest. So for me, the big issue is defining the critical parameters that apply to myself, the energy, skills, and attitude at my home. So he has some obvious questions. 1, why am I choosing to stay in my marriage instead of leaving? 2 reasons. 1, I feel responsible for the influence on my kids. B, even professionally, I've never left a job in the middle of the project. My personal code is to see things through. And this map is my project, and observing my wife's responses within scope. And then number 2, is my personality this intense both at work and at home? He's like, no, I have to work on that too. So Jack chimes in, and we've had like some back and forth with this guy, so there's gonna be some backstory. When it's relevant, we'll bring it up in here. But it's like, your wife's not indifferent. She's literally incompetent at being the sexually seductive, feminine wife that you want. Seriously. Her mom is a highly functional, completely unfeminine woman. You say that your wife's friends are also unattractive, same description. At least part of the reason your wife became a STEM lady was that she wouldn't have surrounded herself with stylish and personable women who surely thought she was a boring frump. See, we don't just want wives who are enthusiastic about sex, we want them to want to be sexy. Several days in a row, I go to the gym and then work late in my home office. I don't want my wife to jump my bones as soon as I decide to come to bed. I mean, that's cool. But what I really want is for her to come to my office with a snack and a black tea, wearing lingerie and saying, you look like you could use this. You want to take a break? Like, that shit's sexy, man. I wish Zach Small or Hunter Alpha or Family Alpha or Hunter Drew talked about this more. Because he's sort of gestured in that direction and given plenty of examples of that in his own marriage. Too much of what we discuss on here ends up being too focused on the actual sex. And yeah, for a sex-starved marriage, getting your dick wet 3 times a week instead of 3 times a quarter is great, but you're probably going to want more at some point. And you won't want to just have sex with your wife that often. You want her to get sexy that often too.
So the memes, they're very good. This is really, they've taken it.
True Alpha
named Ryan Stone.
This says, I asked Murphy about the article he wrote, cuckolding his wife. Clear up the cuck article. Clear up the cuck article.
Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me?
If I wasn't prepared
to literally impoverish his entire bloodline.
I am now concerned for my career.
And I'm still
Just to
recommending
clear up the cuck article.
お前はもう死んでいる。何
You know what? Fuck you for bringing this up. Yeah. Fuck you. Heartfelt.
I'm not going to have those guys back on my channel again. Absolutely not.
Just use a little bit of fucking common sense.
It is just...
That's great. That's you should.
Fuck you.
Sorry, apologies.
Just keep going, dude. One foot in front of the other. Before you know it, this will all be in the rearview mirror. Fuck you.
It's one of the few things that the red pill women understand. Also, they're literally incapable of deconstructing it, which I've always thought was hilarious. Being female, looking and acting feminine is attractive because it makes men feel like $1 million, and that's the only thing we give a shit about. Frenchie, who I've brought up before in a bunch of Mids watches, made some comment in another thread about his wife totaling all of his cars. Do you know why he never gave a shit? And it's not because she fucked him a lot. He didn't give a shit because she brought him black tea when he was working late and told him how much she appreciated how hard he worked and reminded him of all the great things they had in their lives because of the work. Just too bad she passed away. But yeah, that was the point. She made him feel like $1 million. Wine More Please, which you guys may remember, because he's still out and about. YouTube channel, on Twitter. I've had him on the show a few times. The guys without the cynical attitudes, the guys who roll our eyes at the repeated red pill characterizations of women as vapid, selfish, basic bitches who have nothing better to do than act like shitty attention whores. We feel this way because our wives do shit like this, not because they fuck us. Why should we give a shit about that? My wife doesn't let me fuck her, we have sex because it's enjoyable. She does bring me black tea though, a completely selfish favor that I appreciate. This is being feminine. Women, for whatever biological or sociological reasons, are usually emotionally empathic, perceiving unspoken needs for a loved one and fulfilling it, or doing something to enable the loved ones to fulfill it for themselves. This seems like a borderline mental superpower to most men, but it's a pretty common skill set in most women. And this is why we tell you to hit the fucking gym. No, don't just lose weight. You ran a marathon? Great, good for you. You know who else can run a marathon? Any woman who trains as much as you did. Now, go bench 225. How many women do you think can do that? Like 0.1% of them? If they're Olympic level athletes or using steroids, sure. The reason why lifting is so important is that you realize just the mere ability to lift heavy objects, these are like superpowers to women. My wife's uncanny sense of knowing exactly when I need a snack and some caffeine, that's a superpower. Just like when she says, we should get a cart or something, and I say, nah, I got it, and lug a 60-pound piece of IKEA furniture across the parking lot. No, she's not dripping wet, she's mostly thinking. My husband's effort is completely impractical and yet surprisingly effective. He's just carrying it. I'd have to flag down some guy, ask for a cart, help load it. So, like, see, if you're one of those men who say, I don't like a woman who's all done up, I like the natural look. You're a fucking liar. You are lying, you fucking idiot. Just as much as those women that says, I don't like muscly guys. I get it. You think women like Sofia Vergara, whoever she is, are a little too overdone or whatever, and I'm sure women legitimately think that The Rock is too big and ideal for them too. Well, your wife isn't Sophia, and you're not The Rock. So maybe it's overly simplistic telling her to wear more makeup to be more feminine, and telling you to hit the gym to be more masculine, and that it will pay dividends in how you're perceived. But in all likelihood, it's not. We're telling you, and the red pill women is telling women to use your goddamn superpowers. As with everybody else, I liked your revised post, and I like this one too. And then he goes into why he likes it, blah, blah, blah. The key point of this one, though, is like the guy, your wife is craving some goddamn agency. Like, what is agency? It's the ability to exercise your executive function in ways that make you feel successful and self-sufficient. Strong, literal, strong, and independent women. The ability to feel like this, while your decisions may not lead to successful outcomes, you are at least empowered to make those decisions. Now, the rest is just more blah, blah, blah to get that point across. The key point of this one too, and a lot of part of like how dealing with shit tests make you better at this, cut the end here. Having the agency of telling somebody to go fuck themselves makes you a lot less likely to feel like you actually have to do that. And this is the thing, as a guy, no bluffing. Your girl will always bluff. Anytime you posture about how you're tough this and how you can replace her that, she will always call your bluff because you've always failed in the bluffs in the past. So for this one, the idea of building your powers, using your superpowers, building your map, building status, all that stuff, is that the more likely you are to tell your wife to get the fuck out and replace her with somebody better, the less likely it is that she's going to put you in a position where you have to. This is that reason that rich people always get more gifts than poor people. I wish I could explain why. It doesn't really matter. Just know. And back to he's talking about the guy and his wife. See, the problem is that any woman who tries to find agency entirely through motherhood, she's miserable. Being a stay-at-home mom sucks for executive function. It's the difference between being in a line department and a staff department at a company. It's really hard to feel agency in staff departments since it's mostly just repetitive operations. Staff departments are like just basic office work, right? You're a janitor, you clean all the shit in the corporate bathroom just in time for all the workers to file back in and shit in the bathrooms again. Women finding agency in motherhood is like people finding agency in janitorial work. So yeah, he's not shitting on janitors specifically, but he's like, those staff positions suck. It's the same shit, and there's never a sense of achievement, completion, or just finishing. It is possible to feel agency in certain staff departments, but generally, no. And hence, this is why you and your wife have that power struggle. So, more blah, blah, blah. We'll skip into the end. So when it comes to being feminine, your wife is essentially a Poindexter. She doesn't know what the fuck to do. She's just going to be hysterical that she can't do it, which is why your whole ramping up the dread thing is probably approaching the point where it's mostly retarded and simply serving as a proxy for your desperate need of validation from women by getting it from other women. Look, man, if you really think about this shit, think about the end game. Do you think if you ramp up the dread enough, your wife is driven to such anxious hysterics that she'll literally self-immolate one day and be reborn as a clone of Scarlett Johansson? Probably not. Ultimately, this is why dread without guidance results in unnecessarily stress in the marriage. There are many ways to motivate your spouse's behavior besides drive them further and further into an anxious wreck. Anyways, I'm skipping all the rest of this stuff here because I can sum this up really succinctly. If you read, it's in Praxeology Volume 2, where I talk about the hamster maze. And the idea is like a girl's hamster is her anxiety. It's lost in a maze. You're gaining value. She's staying stagnant. She wants to be more feminine. She wants to keep you loyal. She wants to get rid of that anxiety, but she has no idea what to do. So when you're at the point that you've gone through phase 1 of the scoreboard, gotten out of your wife's frame and stop having her dictate terms. You've built up your own frame. You're on the second phase of the scoreboard. You know who you are, what you want, your worldview, how to achieve things. Example, right? Now you're on the third phase of the scoreboard. You're putting up points. You're a top tier man. Other women want you. Your wife feels that as like anxiety. So now what? This is where you have to offer exits for the hamster maze. You're not telling her what to do. You're providing an exit. And that's that cuddles ain't free thing, right? So you notice like after she acts feminine, after she has like a great, sexual weekend with you, or, makes you food one day, cleans up the house for you, like all these nice things that they do that make her want to be better and make you happy. The rewarding of good behavior is how you show the exit to the maze. Oh yeah, she blow you on the weekend. It's amazing. The next day you're like extremely present, extremely fun to be around. She feels the lack of anxiety and comfort. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. She eventually comes to the conclusion that, you know what? I've noticed this. Every time we have sex, I just feel a lot better the next day. It's like, yeah, you don't say. Now, there's hormonal reasons for that, but the other part of it is just once you have your post-nut clarity, you tend to be more pleasant to be around anyway. So it's not even a lie. It's not conditioning. It's just being more honest. You're not putting on a good face that, yeah, we haven't had sex in 6 months, but a real man acts like a good husband. It's like, no, I haven't had laid in 6 months. I'm fucking irritated right now. I am not a pleasant person to be around. The other guy, I got blown 5 times last week. I feel great. Hey, hun, let's go have brunch. Let's go have some avocado toast. See what I mean? So a lot of this stuff kind of adds together when you realize, like, being married like it's your job isn't a bad thing per se. The bad thing is when you think that all you need to do is create anxiety and it'll automatically come. Some women, for lack of a better word, are duds. And you may have found yourself with one. She may have started off as a dud. She may have become a dud over years of inaction, but once you're in a position of strength in the relationship, like you have the status, you have the harmony, then you're able to provide places for this hamster to go, an exit for the maze. And treating you well is how she feels better about herself. And that's the feedback loop you kind of want to encourage in a marriage. And I wish I could say that women are good at doing this, but they're not. Most women have no clue what they're doing. And on the rare case where you have one that is good, most of the time you won't even have to get here. Once you start stepping up and doing your job better, they just start falling right in line and everybody wins. But for some guys, you're going to have to take a more active role in teaching her how to put on a sundress and a summer hat.